Haven't done the air horn in a while. Let's go. Welcome to thursdai, everyone, for June 19th. My name is Alex Volkov. I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases from CoreWeave. I think we should add this as well. And with me here, Stefan Wolfram Ravenwolf. Welcome.
Hello,
Wolfram,
everyone.
how are you?
I'm great. Been a pretty quiet week, actually, I think.
Yeah.
Not so much AI news, but still a lot of gems.
Yeah, still a lot to talk about as well. And we have a full house there on Twitter and X Spaces. Welcome, everyone. If you're listening to the show on X Spaces, it's going to be awesome if you go to the bottom right of your X Space and give us a comment about what piqued your interest in AI this week. There's been a few things. There's a few big news that are not necessarily LLM related. We're going to keep talking about Zuck making waves and spending money. There's also a few interesting open source releases as well. We should definitely talk about those. And there's this Andrei Karpathy, a very hot video going around about the next wave of software that we should definitely mention as well. There's been an interesting week for sure. Not as huge as previous weeks, but hey, that's all right. I haven't seen 1 week since we started doing this that didn't take us a whole 2 hours to discuss. So I think it's going to be interesting nonetheless. And also, we may have breaking news. We will see. Today on the show, we'll start with the TLDR in a minute, but we also will have a guest and with us around, I want to say, in an hour or so. And today is also something else that I want to tell you that I'm going to do. I am going to try and do an experiment while doing the show. I'm going to try to transcribe all of it with the new ChatGPT transcribe feature that just launched. I'm assuming it didn't launch in Europe, in Germany, right? Like this sounds like very anti-European, the recording on your side without telling anyone.
Yeah, I think that is another thing that may be delayed, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, so we will definitely talk about this, but ChatGPT just launched their meetings recorder and it's running right now. So we'll see how well it transcribes. And we'll also talk about other transcription services as well. They just launched like yesterday from Qt AI. With that said, Wolfram, how was your week? It's been, how's your week, man?
Yeah, like I said, a bit quiet week. I have experimented a bit with some vision stuff, image generation models, and okay, there were a couple of new models. Yeah, we will get into it in the TLDR. So there's still some exciting stuff here that I'm very happy that it came out.
Absolutely. And Wolfram, I want to do this one thing with you. Well, it's just you and me. So I presented myself. I would love for you to get a chance to represent. There's like multiple new speakers in our show. And so before the TLDR, would love to give you a chance to tell the folks who you are and kind of how you ended up on thursdai. Give us like a 2-sentence presentation for folks who are new, who don't know who is the other guy who's talking.
Okay, so I got into AI stuff in the summer of 2022 when Stable Diffusion launched. I think that is similar to your background.
Yep.
And then the ChatGPT moment that showed me a passion of my childhood, AI, that it is a serious thing. So I did a lot of experiments locally because local AI and open source AI, that is where my heart is burns for. So I did a lot of experiments, posted a lot of stuff on Reddit, doing experiments with the models, comparisons, and so on. And that is how you interviewed me in an episode. And since then, I've been coming every week to the show and became a co-host over time, which I love doing. And my work life, I'm working at Ellermind, a German AI startup in Bremen, which is working on a couple of things. And we are about to launch a solution for compliance checking of models and evaluations in that regard for German government and official stuff.
That's super cool. And very, very glad to have you here. And from a co-host to a host next week, I'm on vacation, folks. I'm going to try to tune in, but I'm going to try to disconnect. And so Wolfram will step in next week as the host as well. So looking forward to that. Definitely going to be awesome to have you there as well. Joining us, LDJ as well. LDJ, welcome. And just as you're joining, we're going to start with our TLDR. And as always, folks, TLDR is for those of you who kind of follow the news, but maybe haven't, and maybe don't have the full 2 hours to sit with us and wait for us to tell you about everything that happened. TLDR is a brief section where I just read out super quickly about everything that I already collected as the notes for the show. And this is a great opportunity for you to tell me, hey, you missed this one thing, because there's so much happening usually, especially this crazy week that happened. For me personally, a whole month happened since last week, but we should stay away from that topic as much as possible. But basically, TLDR is for that. And if you are listening to anything and you're like, oh, Alex didn't mention this, folks, this is where the community steps in. It always happens where somebody says, hey, this thing happened, I go, and while the show happens, we actually go and cover this. Right. So let's start with our TLDR here, and we should be good to go. Alrighty, folks, this is a TLDR. This is everything that we will discuss on Thursday, June 19th. First of all, your hosts and co-hosts here, Alex Volkov, AI Evangelist with Weights and Biases, Wolfram Ravenwolf, AI Evangelist also, and AI Validator with LMI. We have LDJ, and we will have Nistin joining us as well. Also, guests on the show today, we'll have Pankaj, the co-founder of Yup, to talk about a new evaluation startup. He's going to join, and we're going to chat about their approach of telling us which model is the best. We will start the show, as always, with open source LLMs. We have a few releases. There are a few interesting releases. First of all, we have Moonshot AI release Kimi, the Kimi Dev 72 billion parameters, which takes the top spot, according to them, on Swebench, I believe, verified. We'll talk about this, and we'll talk about some feedback from the community and all hands about that position. Top spot with an open source model. So top spot between the open source models. Also, Minimax, Julia, I'm not sure which actually company this is. Maybe Tencent. We'll check, definitely check. Minimax releases M1, a 456 billion parameter behemoth mixture of expert model. It's a reasoning model that they claim comes very close, if not beating DeepSeek R1, and with significantly less training time is what they claim. So we're going to cover Minimax M1 as well. It's a reasoning.
It's by Hailu or AI.
Hailu AI, yeah.
Hailu.
And Hailu also have voice models that we're going to discuss. It has 1 million context for reasoning, and they claim 80K output reasoning tokens, which is quite incredible. I believe we've seen smaller open source releases as well, and if we'll cover those as well. Big companies and APIs. Big companies were fairly quiet this week. Google released like a release. It wasn't really a release, although we did get a new model from Google, and so Google drops the experimental moniker from Gemini 2.5 and Gemini 2.5 Flash. They're now in GA, and we're going to talk about this. And they also gave us a new preview model called Flash Lite, which is extremely fast, but probably insignificantly like cheaper, but also less performant. One highlight exciting thing for me is that OpenAI finally adds MCP support in ChatGPT. That's very, very cool. It's only for deep research right now, but I found it out and somebody sent me. By the way, a listener of Thursday sent me this via WhatsApp. So you're more than welcome to just send me updates via DMs. I'm going to be very happy, or just tag me under news. So OpenAI adds MCP support as they promised, and only for deep research for now, but it's going to be cool. We're going to cover this. We're going to tell you how to add your own MCP servers in there as well. OpenAI also launches their meetings recorder, which is a direct hit to startups like Otter AI and different startups like this. And right now, this this conversation is being recorded into ChatGPT, so we'll actually see at the end of the show how well this performs. Meaning, Recorder puts the whole context of our conversation within the chat interface as well. We have some updates in the shifting sands of the top people in AI, and it looks like Zuck is on his spending spree. And this week's update is also kind of crazy. After last week, we discussed Meta acquisition of Scale AI, well, near acquisition of Scale AI, and the bringing of Alex Wang, the CEO and the youngest self-made billionaire ever, to the super intelligence team at Meta. It looks like Zuck is continuing. This week it was updated that he's considering bringing on Nat Friedman and Daniel Gross. Daniel Gross is the co-founder of SSI Inc. with Ilya, and Nat Friedman and Daniel have been investing in multiple companies. Probably disclosure that they've invested with investors as well, and they've been investing in multiple companies. They have an incredible AI portfolio, and it looks like some interesting moves are happening in this regard. So we're going to discuss this a little bit as well. I think that's mostly it from the big companies in LLM. So we're going to continue. And I want to continue to this week's buzz. Please stick around because this week, actually yesterday, was our Fully Connected conference. And we've announced 3 new things. Since the CoreWeave acquisition, we've been looking to see what can we do together. And so I will tell you all about at least 2 of those. 2 of those updates are we're launching an inference service. Yes, inference service for the first time. And I'm going to tell you all about how to use this, which models. And we also launched something called online evaluations supported by CoreWeave inference as well. So online evaluations will run evaluations for you. You'll just have to define your LLM as a judge. I'm really excited about those. And we'll definitely spend a few minutes to explain to you how to do and how to run this. Many folks tell me, hey, Alex, you keep mentioning this, but you don't explain how to actually use this. So I'll spend a few minutes in explaining to you how to do this. While it was a fairly quiet week in the LLM world, maybe some news here and there, it was an insane week in the video generation area. An insane week in video generation area. We've seen VO3 come out of Google I/O, and since then basically control every viral aspect, especially because it generates audio. And since then, the folks have not been sleeping. ByteDance releases a new video model that supposedly beats VO3, at least on visuals. It's called CDance 1.0 Mini. It's already available, I think, on FAL and with Dreamina, which is their website. Minimax, the same Minimax from before, that decided to just go everywhere. So they have a reasoning model that comes close to R1. But now they also have Hylio 2.0. Hylio was previously the video model. It's a 1080p native generation with state-of-the-art instruction following, and it costs cheaper than VO3. Both of these models are topping VO3 on the artificial analysis benchmark. So when people just blindly react to videos, they don't take into account the sound generation. We'll talk about this, but definitely incredible week for video because like 2 video models jump over the previously top one. And also, while not performing more than anybody else, but definitely a worthy candidate into the discussion, Midjourney launched their video product. Like we told you last week, they're gonna. We did mention this a little bit, but we didn't cover this. Midjourney does not come close to any of the previous one. I think it's 480p native, but it's quite incredible because they keep that Midjourney style that many people love. So we're gonna chat about this. If we have mutual folks who do video generation and want to hop on the show and talk to me about Midjourney stuff, you are more than welcome to DM me. I'll bring you up. We have some space today. Voice and audio, we have a breaking news entry just from yesterday. Qt.ai, the folks behind Mochi.
Mochi.
I think Mochi. I think this is the Japanese thing where they came from. Oh yeah, there's a correction. It's Holio 02 instead of 2.0, right? Wolfram, I think you corrected me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So back to voice and audio, Qt.ai, the folks behind Mochi, and unmute.sh, which we talked about, kind of a framework for real-time conversations. They're launching an open source, high throughput streaming speech-to-text models for real-time applications. So they're basically the thing that I'm just now doing with ChatGPT, they're launching a specific model. Remember Whisper? They're basically saying the bidding Whisper with Qt.ai STT, a new model, and I've tried it and it looks dope. It really is quick. The highlight there is the semantic VAD. We'll talk about semantic VAD. We've mentioned semantic VAD before, and we'll definitely talk about this. Nothing as far as I saw in AI art and diffusion. I think there was a 3D model that I kind of missed, but we're going to take a look at this. I will have 3D models. Because there's not a lot of news elsewhere, I allowed myself to add a new section so that we'll be able to discuss papers potentially and different things that got released. They're not necessarily releases of products. We'll see if we get there. But basically, I wanted to highlight like 3 things that I saw. I saw this first thing. I saw this paper called Live Code Bench Pro. So a release from Live Code Bench, which is a coding benchmark, with an incredible achievement on Live Code Bench Hard that all of the top LLMs get 0.0%. And I just wanted to highlight this because the researchers, they do love a new hill to climb. And when a new release like this comes out and there's like 0% on benchmarks, I think it's very interesting for researchers and very interesting for us to talk about.
In that chart, just one thing. When we get to it, we can expand on it. But the interesting thing here is not for me that we see hard 0%, but that O4 mini high is in the 1.5 percentile of all the people here. So if it's always how you frame it and how you look at it.
Yep. So we'll definitely discuss this. Very interesting. Like all the top models get 0 score on something. It's very interesting. We haven't seen this before, I believe. There's another study from MIT that I would love to discuss. It's very interesting. Just came out, I think, yesterday, made the rounds. MIT did a brain scan study that shows the frequent ChatGPT use experience. Folks who do use ChatGPT frequently experience a steep drop in neural connectivity and memory retention. There's a silver lining there, and there's also the study is not that vast. I think it was only like 54 or 55 people, but still it's very, very interesting because for many folks the concern is, hey, we're going to use these tools, we're going to be dumber. Are we getting dumber? MIT study supposedly shows, based on brain scans, that at least for some things like memory retention, this is actually the case. Again, I haven't seen a meta study, but it's worth discussing. And everybody's favorite AI guy, I don't know how to describe Andrej Karpathy. If you don't know who he is, Andrej Karpathy famously kickstarted the AI at Tesla, helped co-found OpenAI, then went back to OpenAI for a while, and now he does, I don't know what he does, but he's still one top researcher. He had an incredible talk that's called Software, I believe, 3.0. The Dawn of English as a Programming Language. He had this talk at the AI Day from YC, and everybody's very, very excited about this. I would obviously tell you go and watch this, but definitely worth covering at least a few highlights from this talk. We'll give a shout out to our friend Swix, who painstakingly reconstructed this talk from just like posts on social media just a day before YC decided to speed up the release and just release the talk. But definitely the whole talk is here. We're going to give you a link as well. So Andrej Karpathy is a very interesting talk. And then in tools, I think this is the last corner that we have. In tools, our friends from BrowserBase announced something very cool. It's called director.ai. It's an agent to automate things with language. And I think they also announced like a fundraise, which we're less interested about. This is you basically type what you want and they convert it into instructions for their agent to click on buttons, and then you can grab this and keep automating yourself. It's very interesting. We will chat with Pankaj, the CEO of Yup, YUPP, which is a new startup that just announced a huge kind of like release and fundraise, which allows you to chat with 500 plus AI models for free. And based on this, they're going to build a leaderboard, and we may have another kind of vibey source for knowing which models are best at what and why. So people will use this. They have an incentive system. We're going to talk with Pankaj. It's going to be very interesting. I already used it a little bit. And Wolfram, I don't know if it's worth mentioning or not mentioning, because you said whether or not it's a hallucination itself. We saw somebody posted a universal version of a system prompt for reduction of hallucination. And we're going to maybe mention this at some point. I think some folks enjoy the, the kind of bring us a system prompt that works from somewhere. I think that's basically it on TLDR. I will have to ask folks here. Yam is not with us yet. I think Wolfram and LDJ, if anything that I missed, and folks in the audience also, if there's anything that this didn't cover that's very important, please post in comments. Otherwise, we're gonna get started with open source. LDJ? Midjourney V7, but there's another.
Sorry, I was gonna say
Midjourney
Video. Sorry, not V7. I mean Midjourney Video. They just released it yesterday.
Yeah, we have Midjourney.
We have it.
Yeah, I just didn't realize it's version 7. All right, folks, I think it's time to get started with open source. Let's go. Open source AI, let's get it started. All right, we are back at our favorite corner, open source AI, and we actually have a few interesting releases. And I think we should start with Kimi. What do you guys think? It's definitely interesting. So we've heard of Moonshot AI before, and I believe we've even mentioned Kimi before. And this time, Moonshot releases an open source model called Kimi Dev 72B. And I think the interesting thing that they've highlighted is it's specifically for software engineering tasks. It's achieving 60% on SWE-bench verified. SWE-bench verified is a coding task that basically takes actual software engineering tasks. We'll talk about actual ones once we get to the paper, live code bench. But it actually takes tasks from GitHub, I believe, and to complete them, you need to submit traces. You need to be verified by the team that does this. Very interesting. They're getting a 60% on SWE-bench verified, I think with no harness as well. And they claim to be the top between open source. As a reminder, at some point in the past, maybe 2 months ago, our CTO, Sean from Bits and Bytes, got the top score and held it for, I think, a month with 64, I believe. Back then, he used the reasoning model, and that was, I want to say, 01. And he did a lot of work to get there with a lot of traces and retrying and best of 5. There's like a lot. If you're interested in this, the talk of him discussing how he actually did this is going to go live from Fully Connected very soon. I'm going to talk about this and post this in a future episode. But this, I believe, is just the model, and it's an open source model, and it takes the top place between open source models. So it beats DeepSeek R1. DeepSeek R1 was around 53 or so. And this is the latest DeepSeek R1, the updated May 28th version. DeepSeek R1 from the actual DeepSeek got a little bit more, 45. So let me actually show this on the thing. Wolfram, LDJ, any thoughts on this model? Have you seen kind of this release? What's interesting to us in here to discuss?
So since it's a programming model, I'm not feeling qualified to say something about the programming quality. That's why we have these benchmarks. But I did test it locally in LM Studio, where I use the Anschluss version, GGUF. And for some reason, it didn't speak German properly. So that is, I usually expect that from such a big model. But in this case, it didn't. That could be an issue with the quant or anything else besides that. They didn't give any recommended settings on the page. So I should have to blame it some more. But that was a bit of a bummer for me. Of course, that may not even apply to anyone who's using it for programming or just in English.
Yeah.
But just something I noticed, which surprised me.
I think they mentioned, thank you, Wolfram. I think they mentioned this, I'm reading from the Hugging Face, is optimized via large-scale reinforcement learning. It autonomously patches real repositories in Docker, gains rewards only when the entire test suite passes. This ensures correct and robust solutions aligning with real-world development standards. So they are using RL in this like very specific way. LDJ, would love to hear a comment from you on kind of the verifiable rewards RL method, and it looks like it's working at least for them, because they also talked about this being like cheaper to train than R1, I believe, somewhere.
Yeah, honestly, I missed this release, so I haven't tested it and haven't actually really looked into the paper at all. But there is the next Minimax M1 model, though. I have looked into that, so
all right, so
I'll have more comments on that.
Cool. I appreciate it. So that's at least from their Hugging Face. 72 billion parameters for many folks can just deploy this. And I think it's very like Moonshot AI has done multiple things. I see a lot of Chinese startups going with open source. Is very interesting. I have yeah, so we have some comments from, I love comments from the audience. Roger, thank you. Tested Kimi with the Qwen 2.572 works for coding, but for writing on any other thing, it doesn't work very well. It does look like this model is optimized specifically for coding. And we've seen a peak for downloads for this model. It's very interesting. They're saying the tech report is coming soon. I believe that after the tech report comes, we'll have a few more things to announce or kind of discuss in this model. Meanwhile, folks, in comments as well, feel free to tell us whether or not you've tested this model or if it's very interesting to you as well.
It's interesting. Seems like very specialized for coding, of course, whereas the R1 and V3, for example, are really big and they write very well. So in this case, they apparently got better performance in coding with a much smaller model by just going more specialized.
Yep.
That's what I get out of this.
I will say there's one thing that I wanted to bring, and I think Nissan sent it as well. Nissan will join us in a minute. Folks from All Hands, which we had on the show, multiple folks from All Hands, did test this model, and they found some kind of like inconsistencies with the SWE-bench kind of announcement. So we should definitely at least mention this. When Kimi Dev released, then they said that their open weights model that achieves a 60.4% SWE-bench verified, and then the Open Hands community tried it because they love open source models, and it didn't work that well with the Open Hands agent, and it only got 17% within the Open Hands model, 17 from the 60 that they've announced to 17. And so these folks went deep and tried to figure out like what's going on there. And this is kind of what they came up with. I think it's worth discussing, kind of showing as well on stage. Kimi Dev is based on a fixed workflow. I'm almost reading verbatim, folks. So for those of you who are not following on the stream as well, reading verbatim here. Kimi Dev is based on a fixed workflow of a bug fixer and a file editor, where the model is tasked with performing only these two tasks, bug fixer and file editor. Because of this, it can do these tasks well, but not great for other tasks. Like somebody already mentioned, it's not great for example, for writing. But here's like a screenshot example of what it does: bug fixer and test and file editor. They say there's two ways of solving SWE-bench style bug fixing: agents like Open Hands, which take actions exploring around the codebase editing files, or fixed workflows like agentless stuff, which can only use a fixed workflow. They have a comparison here as well. And Kimi Dev is the non-agentic mode model. And two approaches. I believe the approach that we did with WNB Programmer was definitely agentic model, that it tried to explore multiple things and tried to kind of compare things and just run them, and then did a lot of exploration as well. Fixed workflows can work well with small models on exactly the tasks they were designed for, but do not adapt well to the broader set of tasks that you may want the AI to do for you. So Open Hands, they're all in on agents, obviously. And so it's very interesting that this model was, it looks like specified for this like one task, but not necessarily agentic. I haven't done the consideration before where this is kind of the outcome, where I don't know, in my head somehow, we know that some models, for example, are focused on agentic tasks. We had, the Qwen models before, and they do mention this model is great for agentic purposes when they release, or when models are getting trained on like MCP. Again, I'm reminded of Qwen and how incredible Qwen is. And they mentioned that they fine-tuned them for like MCP stuff or agentic stuff. But this one seems to be highly optimized for the SWE-bench task and nothing else. So very interesting. If you are into coding, give it a try. And if you have tested like Roger, please let us know. But I think we'll move on to the more interesting release from this week. It's going to be the Minimax M1. I think there's a lot to talk about there. So let's move forward. Minimax announces Minimax M1, a 456 billion parameter MOE with 45 billion active parameters. It's a reasoning model, and it comes, I believe, very close to DeepSeek R1. Artificial analysis puts them I think there's like 2 models for outputs as well. They claim to be the largest context thinking model in open source. So 1 million tokens in the context window, but also they have 2 modes of 40K output and 80K output of tokens with an Apache 2 license. LDJ, have you said you've seen this model? What is your most important thing about this model? What stands out to you? What folks should know?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think I would say overall it's even better than the new R1 in my opinion, and it's smaller, a little bit smaller. The R1, it's around 680 billion parameters, if I remember correctly, in total parameters. This is a little bit smaller, around like 400.
456,
so, yeah, so less VRAM, a little bit more practical if you have one of those, large VRAM like Mac Studios or Mac Minis. But then also in terms of agentic capabilities and agentic benchmarks, from what I've seen, it seems to be even competitive with like Claude 4 Opus and O3. And so in that sense, like it seems especially better than R1 in that aspect. And just overall, the fact that we have that in combination with these really long context capabilities and apparently very good resolution and quality of that context, and not just context for the sake of context.
Yeah,
that seems just really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing you mentioned is not context for sake of just like saying context. I think we chatted about the ruler benchmark, for example. We chatted about MRCR, which is OpenAI's kind of like updated long context thing. This model delivers a 73.4 on MRCR and 61.5 on long bench. So this is like an optimized for long context model. Many models in long context, even though they announced this, like quickly taper off at some point of this long context being there. And this model seems significantly focused on delivering kind of on this. I do believe that this is kind of the highlighted open source from this week, right? Like this definitely feels like the main model release. So OpenWeight's Apache 2 license. They also call this like a first large-scale hybrid attention reasoning model with multiple parameters. Native context, again, like one window, which is 8x larger than DeepSeek.
Yeah, and it's an architecture that's a bit different. So, for example, there are no GGUFs available yet, so I couldn't run it locally, but I did use it online, and yeah, it gave me a good impression.
Yep.
Even in German.
Even in German, that's awesome. Do you try it on your MMLU Pro stuff?
No, I didn't run a benchmark on it yet.
Okay, so we need to make sure.
I was just using a web interface.
They also talk about Nistan. If you have any comments, jump in here. Welcome, Nistan. They talk about novel RL algorithm. I want to talk about like this for just a little bit, because it seems that DeepSeek R1 brought kind of the renaissance for RL with the GRPO. And since then, like multiple people try to iterate on this and train multiple small models, and we've talked about this. They here said that this is trained with a novel RL algorithm called CISPO. The clips important sampling weights, not token updates, and full RL training completed in 3 weeks on 520 H800 GPUs. H100, I believe, is the kind of the smaller version that's exported into China of the H100. This cost them $500,000, $534,000. And the unprecedented training speed and cost effectiveness is what they say.
That is just the fine tuning. So that's not the training of the model. That is just doing the reinforcement learning to get it to reason. But because we don't know what the actual cost of the model is. But I have to say, I did use the previous Minimax model, which they supposedly had up to 10 million context length, but they were up to 4 million, sorry. It was pretty good. I always thought of this one as like the one that kind of flew under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
But the last Minimax, I remember trying it. It was a big mixture of experts around this size too. It was pretty good. So yeah, I'm not that surprised by this one. As for the reinforcement learning algorithms, they're still basically variations of the same group relative policy optimization, but you add a lot more. It's not like it is that different. Yes, it isn't. You could say it's a novel algorithm, but it's not a whole lot different. You're just fixing the issues with the GRPO.
Yeah. But I think it's great that, our DeepSeek released this and kind of like gave it to the world, and now folks are improving on this significantly, even like smaller models. We have a few benchmarks here. It doesn't beat like R1 in like multiple things. I will say I was wrong before, so my bad. Let me correct myself. The 40K version and the 80K version, those are reasoning tokens and not output. Those are reasoning budgets and not output tokens, right? So it can like, but still, if it can output 80K reasoning tokens, it sounds like it's significantly better. So this is like the.
For reference for people, oh holy cow, it got 87 on Zebra Logic. That is a very we reviewed that benchmark. I think Sean Swix was here when we were talking about Zebra Logic like a year and a half ago. For reference, Gemini has is configurable with up to a 32K reasoning budget. Very interesting. I guess we'll wait until people make AWQ and GGUF weights, because this one is somewhat at like 400 billion parameter. That means at half size, you could get it to run on maybe 3 H100s or GPUs if you rent, or it'll run a lot better on. You can run it in fuller 8-bit, even on a Mac Ultra, Mac Studio with 512 gigs.
Yep. So I want to highlight like a few of the benches. LDJ, thank you for sending this link, and this is on GitHub, folks. The interesting thing is in their GitHub, they have like the extended thinking task, and they just show like how many token budgets you can get the model to go at. So they are famously at like 80K is the maximum, the 80K version. There's like also 40K version. And they show DeepSeek R1 is like at 64K. The updated one, the previous one is 32K. And then they show at the end, OpenAI 03, which I really commend them by comparing themselves to 03. And they show something that I don't know if we have verified. They show 100K token budget for 03. I don't know if they can know this. I haven't seen this before like reported, so that's very interesting that we have this kind of like do we have this kind of not a confirmation, but like maybe assumption from them that they think that 03 has 100K token like thinking token budget. And obviously when you use the API version of 03, you don't get the number. You can only say high, medium, or low reasoning efforts. So very interesting. What should we highlight here? So we highlighted the kind of the long context versions, right? So OpenAI's MRCR, and they have two versions of this highlighted here: MRCR for 128K context window and MRCR for 1 million context window. And we can see that they're both these models get 56 and 58 on the 1 million, and the only one comparable to this is Gemini 2.5 Pro, because other models don't get the 1 million context window. And so they compare themselves, and very impressively, Gemini 2.5 Pro gets 58% on the MRCR 1 million, and they get 58 and 56 respectively. So very impressive from an open source model to offer 1 million token context window and also compete with Gemini, which has been like the leader in long context for a while. Folks, speaking of Gemini, I want to just mention this super quick. Do you guys remember the Gemini 2.5 Pro had 2 million tokens at some point? It's no longer there. It's no longer there. There's no way for me, like we're sidestepping the open source a little bit. This is like a pet peeve of mine. There's no longer an option via Gemini to get 2 million contacts. We have this as a degraded feature.
It was at that actually happened at the 2.5 launch, which was only for Pro. 2.5 Flash had the 2 million. 2.5 Pro did not have, and I think Logan announced that they might add it, but they didn't. But it didn't have the 2.5 version, the 2.5 Pro version the large one never had the 2 million one. The 2 and the ones before that did.
Yeah, so 2 did, but 2 is now deprecated, so you cannot like have Gemini 2.0 Pro. Flash only had 1 million. So right now, basically, what I'm saying is we were able to have a reasoning model from Google think over 2 million context windows, and that's no longer the case. They deprecated that ability, and it's kind of a bummer because sometimes our show here, just the transcription goes over, not the transcription, the video from YouTube. If we want the model to actually watch our video and kind of analyze, that goes over 2 million tokens. Over 1 million token. I would just say for reference, we don't say this often, but I remember the stat from a while ago. The whole series of Harry Potter books, all 7 books, is around 1.5 million tokens if you tokenize that text. So it's a lot, folks. But when do you need this? You need this for multimodal, for example. All right. So this going back to M1, this is a reasoning model as well. I think there's interesting things for the reasoning model here. They talk about their methodology. I think we've covered this enough, folks. Definitely an interesting release from Minimax. Apache 2 license, which we will not say no to. Incredible license as well. They compare themselves to Quen, for example. It's available on Hugging Face. They do have a paper. The paper is focusing on scaling test time compute with lightning attention. So a lot of authors as well. So if you're interested in some of the methodology behind this, welcome to read this as well. They have a hybrid mixture of experts combined with lightning attention mechanism. That's kind of the highlight there.
Great release. I applaud them definitely. Yeah. And it's one of those which will matter even more later when we get more widespread support, because you can't just run it right now in, for example, LM Studio or So as soon as they get more widespread and quantized and available, then I think a lot more people will talk about this.
Yep. And I think we have a confirmation from the audience as well that we don't know when or if we'll get Llama CPP support, because the last Minimax didn't get support. But if it's if it's important enough to the community and like people request this and people open up PRs, I think we could get this. I think that's it from open source, folks. Anything else we should cover in open source that's important that we should mention? I remember, I do think there was like a dataset release from OpenWeb, but I don't have it in my notes.
Yeah, right. The big one on Hugging Face. But we don't cover datasets very often, I think.
That's true. Alrighty, so we're moving forward, and this is it in open source. Folks, again, if you have any comments, feel free to give us an update, a ping. We'll cover that. We are moving forward to big companies and APIs, although not tons of things happen there. Definitely worth chatting about some stuff. All right, so we already mentioned kind of Gemini in this conversation. Let's talk about the Gemini kind of like updates. Gemini this week gave us an update that finally, not a model update, but to some extent a model update as well. They gave an update this week that Google drops Gemini experimental or preview from the 2.5 Pro and 2.5 Flash, and those models are now in GA, in general availability. We kind of chatted with Logan about this, of how they consider a model in GA, whether or not something is in preview or not preview. So the model that was announced on stage, 2 weeks ago? On stage at the Engineer, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, right? This is the model now that's in general availability. It took them a few weeks to just to kind of put it in general availability. It's super cool. So you can now use this on production. Google is actually showing you that, hey, we're ready for you to take this model all the way. In addition to this, so nothing else changed there as far as I'm aware. Those are the same models with the same pricing, but we did get a new model, which is worth talking about.
Not exactly the same pricing, by the way. The Flash pricing
changed. Yeah, you're right.
Has 100% increase.
Ooh.
Yeah. So because it was, wait, I put it down. So it was 30 cent. It is now at 30 cent, and it was 15 cent per million input tokens, but they reduced the output token price. So it's now 250 per million output instead of 350.
Interesting games they're playing. So it was 15 cents and now it's 30 cents, right? Per 1 million input tokens.
Yeah. It's still cheap, of course. And now we also have, just wanted to say, the new model, which is even cheaper.
I think they're also, maybe a while ago, they removed the whole pricing up until 128K context and then pricing after. Remember, they had this at some point. They priced the tokens differently if you go up to 128K, and now it looks like they removed this. So now the charging and the pricing is unified. So Gemini 2.5 Pro, $1.25. Oh no, they have this on the Pro. Look, they do have this on the Pro. They just improved it to 200K tokens. So the pricing is unified and simplified for the smaller models. It's kind of complex here. Performance, Humanity's Last Exam, Gemini 2.5 Pro obviously gets 21%. I really find it really funny that the folks released an eval benchmark called it Humanity's Last Exam, as though this is going to be like the last thing. And then I think when they released it, everybody was around 5%, and then the newer models just absolutely crushed it on this last exam thing. Don't call anything final until it's final. Obviously, Gemini 2.5 Pro is incredibly performant on all of the evals, like GPK Diamond at 86%, crushes AI Me 2025 at Math at 88%. So Gemini 2.5 Pro, if you can afford it, is an incredible model. $10 for output from 1 million tokens, $15 if you pass 200,000 tokens in output, which is how. But then we also, besides the price increase, we now have a new Gemini model, a new tiny model, probably distilled to oblivion. It's called Gemini Flash Lite, and I think that one is still in preview, I believe. So this model is like a preview model, and it has this very low price point of just 10 cents. Just 10 cents for million tokens on output, on input, and 40 cents on output. It's not the best at the different performance thing, but it is a reasoning model, a very tiny and small reasoning model. I think the highlight there is it's still very very impressive GPK performance, 66% of GPK for a tiny model. It does math relatively well. Live code bench at 34. So it's not the world's top intelligence, but at this price point, you can just throw anything at it, like translation tasks, and it's incredible. The thing is that they highlighted, and I think Demis Hassabis pointed this out in a video, this Flash Lite model is upwards of 400 tokens per second. So they actually show demos of it building interfaces, and interfaces just appear. Now, if you guys remember, we covered all of the the super fast LPU and different chips specified for models like Grok and Cerebrus and all of those. So we've seen models, open source models, go upwards of 1,000 tokens per second, maybe 1,500 tokens per second. We've seen this. It's hard to impress us with 400 tokens per second, but when it's this high quality, it's not open source. There could be an interesting use case for many people. It's also from Google, so if your company has a lot of API credits, for example, and you're kind of beholden to Google, this is a model that's interesting. A lot of use cases for super fast models.
For me right now, it is actually the biggest release of the week, because I'm using it already in production in a way on my Home Assistant system. Oh, wow. And it doesn't support tool calling, but it works with Home Assistant, and it's blazing fast. So the latency has been reduced when I give a command and the house reacts. So, and it's much cheaper even than the previous Flash. So it is a really good release. And I chatted with it as well. And even its writing is very, very good. Surprisingly good for a probably very quantized model. Yeah. Creative writing is great. And even its German is very, very good. So even if it's the smallest model from Google, they really, really rocked it with this release.
Yeah. And do we know, I think it's still 1 million, right?
Yeah.
So this is quite crazy. They have Flash Lite beats. What is this? Flash Lite 2.5. Okay, so 2.5 we had Flash before. So like the interesting, like the Flash Lite 2.5 beats Flash 2.0 on multiple tasks, right? So it's getting kind of unwieldy to hold all these like version numbers in our heads, but like the new Flash Lite model beats the previous Flash 0 on coding, math, and reasoning. It's also hybrid reasoning, so you can like provide it with a budgeted chain of thought. And yeah, it's
wait, is it 10 cents in, 40 cents out?
Yes.
On the price?
Yeah.
Okay, that is not that cheap. I mean, it's about with the 4.1 mini batch, the price. It is pretty cheap, but it's not like that cheap that you could constantly just feed 1 million tokens. But at the end of the day, most of the models are getting good enough now for tasks. Like the only task that we really judge for is like high level automation and coding, so we don't have to deal with a lot of the stuff. But for almost everything else, like home automation that Wolfram was saying, they're getting, even the OSS ones are actually kind of getting good enough.
Yep.
That you really can't tell a whole lot. So yeah, we're in an interesting time now, because I think for something like home automation, would you even be able to tell if it was 2.5 Pro or Flash Lite if it's only replying with like a status of the home or something? It'd probably be really close.
Yeah, it was difficult before when I was using the older 2.0 models, because Flash then was not as good, because it still has to understand which light I meant and what is happening in the house, you know. So it is not as simple as it may seem. It's not just a turn on the light in the kitchen. It's more like, okay, now turn on the light here and there, and the light has a different name. So it has to think a little bit. And I think with the small one here right now, the cheap one, you could use thinking all the time, because it's cheap and it is not taking too long, because it's so fast. It outputs so many tokens. So why not let it think, and you get a boost in its intelligence as well.
I think this is the highlight, right? Like this is a reasoning model that runs at 400 tokens per second. So even kind of the thinking process of it, you can turn it on all the way, because it's also very, very cheap on the output, like 40 cents or something. And you can just
wait, is this multimodal as well now?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So you can feed it your videos and your audios and stuff at 1 million. Okay. So that puts it on a different category then.
Yeah. I think that this is kind of like only Google stuff only Google can do. Even though OpenAI did drop the price of mini models, I don't think they're like as close to the speed here. The speed is very, very impressive. I think that's it on these models, I think. And we will invite Yam, who just joined us, to see if Yam has any comments on the Gemini expansion of models. But if not, we'll move on.
Just saw it. It's pretty new, as you know.
Yeah.
The pace is amazing. I mean, we got Gemini 2 weeks ago, and now we get another Gemini. And the way it goes, I see another Gemini in 2 weeks. That's my prediction. 2-3 weeks, something like that. And
yeah, you were saying that they've been training a new model, kind of like incognito mode or something as well.
Yeah, look, on you can see it's not necessarily the next models, but you can see on LM Arena on the web tab pretty much experiments from all the big labs of models that they are testing them there as final testing before releasing them. These are finalized models. So you can basically just ask them. They are finalized like you are going to get in a chat. So you can just ask the model, who are you? And it's going to simply answer to you, I am ChatGPT trained by OpenAI. I am Gemini trained by Google. So this is how we know which models are which. But you can see the final testing on LM Arena web tab. And there are quite a lot of Geminis in there, you can say.
I'm sure they're testing multiple models, including like maybe specified ones. They have a bunch of like specific Gemini models as well. one thing that I don't have here, also from Google, I think it was a report from yesterday. Google AI mode, I think, is live now, so you can actually talk to it. I need to go and find you guys this week, but Google launched, and they've announced this on Google I/O, and now they released it. You can do search live, so you can now search and kind of talk to the search results as you go. So I think it's pretty cool.
Really
search live. I'll add this, and then we'll talk about this, folks. Let's move on to OpenAI. There's a few updates from this company, besides the fact that they've launched a podcast now, and the first episode was with Sam Altman. It looks like Sam was like all over the place doing media and kind of preparing for some stuff, including saying that the open source that they said beginning of summer is gonna be delayed a little bit by sometime during the summer. So we're still waiting for the open source. They keep asking him questions about the open source models, and I think they keep kind of delaying this to see what we're gonna get. OpenAI though promised us MCP support a while ago. It's already supported via the SDK with the Responses SDK, and now we will have we're now adding MCP support inside ChatGPT. And I actually kind of want to show you how this looks, maybe, if I'm able to. I'll show you in a second. Yeah, I'm going to use my new browser called Dia, which I talked to you about as well, and to show you how this kind of looks. Let's go here. We'll close this guy. So basically, you go to settings, and then you go to... You guys don't see my screen. I do, folks. You go to settings and you go to connectors, and in connectors, you guys remember we talked about now there's Gmail in here, which you can connect. And I think last week I connected, and it's really, really cool. You can ask for your own psychological profile based on your emails. And in my case, since I was maybe 13, I don't remember when I first opened Gmail. I remember it was invites only. And then there's all these like ready connectors. You connect to the Google Calendar, ask it about my meetings for today, etc., or think about who did I not respond, whatever. Teams you can connect. But now there's a create button here on the right, and if you hit this create button, you'll basically get this new connector interface, and you can add an MCP server URL, and you can choose which authentication, none, which some MCP servers give you like it's not best practice, but somebody like Zapier, for example, they expose two URLs for you. One of them is with auth, and one of them, the kind of the URL is secret. So if you use that URL, there's going to be a unique pre-authenticated URL for your use case. So that's how they're kind of skirting the authentication part. And the other one is OAuth. So they have OAuth support, and you basically need to tell, I trust this this application. Because they say this beta is intended for developer use only. Now, if you read the guide, the thing that I wanted to highlight is this is only for deep research. So it's not like the MCP support for, let's say, Chorus. If you guys remember, we had Charlie on here, and Chorus had, we talked about MCP support in Chorus. Chorus has tools that you can see, and then like all these MCPs, connections that you can create, including the We1DB one that I told you about, they're existing within the part of the interface. In ChatGPT, this is only for a specific deep research purpose. And only you have to adhere to a specific, like your MCP has to be exposing a search tool and a fetch tool. Now, those are fairly generic, right? So these tools, you can basically, you can say fetch any type of information that you want from your tooling, right? So technically anybody can build like an MCP server for deep research, fairly generic, but it only works in deep research, doesn't work in chats. But I think still it's super, super cool that we're getting, from the hype of MCP that we talked about back in March, Wolfram, with Dina from Cloudflare and
mine's
and
blown.
It's blown to the point where like the most major AI tool that more than, I think Sam mentioned, 500 million people use every week, now has support for this protocol from a competing company.
Yeah, but only read-only support, which is actually probably a good idea, because with most other systems, you don't have the same problem that you would have with ChatGPT, where if you have the memories enabled, and now imagine you get an injection that uses an MCP to extract all the memory from you and send it to an external part or something like that. So ChatGPT is getting so much information from us that the security aspects are even more critical in regard to that than just a chat tool.
100%. I will say
that sounded like the most sci-fi saying ever. This thing came in, extracted all your memories, and just ran away on its own.
Imagine that, Wolfram, I think you're right. Imagine that you have a connector to the Gmail of yourself, right? Maybe read-only, but still, you have a connector to Gmail, you have a connector to your calendar. And now MCP, you connect this rogue MCP that looks legit. We will recommend to folks, please use MCP like very carefully. Very similar to Chrome extensions. When you install something, somebody can update it from behind the scenes. So use like if you use the GitHub one, don't use like the open source hosted version of anybody else. Use the GitHub one. If like use the original MCP servers of the companies that they post, because again, like there could be like different injection stuff, even though it's read-only. There could be some problems going on. MCP basically lets your chatbot have tools, but those tools are like, essentially can like prompt inject as well. There's a bunch of security implications. OpenAI is definitely highlighting the fact that like you know what you're doing if you're doing this. So definitely be careful when you just like add MCP servers.
Even if you use the official, for example, GitHub or email MCPs, there was an exploit where there was a bug ticket issue opened on GitHub, and the MCP just overrode the command and it extracted information. So you could imagine a rogue mail, like a phishing mail that is targeted at your AI and that is supposed to give your information out. So yeah, we will have to deal with these things in the future, in the near future.
We first need to know about them, right? And the feeling of overwhelm, that's I think the feeling that older generation may feel about technology. We should resist. This will be a new vector of attack that we will need to deal with, and we should be at least knowing about this, right? So prompt injection exists right now, and prompt injection, the models get continuously more improved with the prompt injection kind of like attacks and techniques. We've seen this in the OpenAI operator, for example, because it reads the web. You technically could see a website that says, hey, if this is an AI, do this like nefarious thing. Operator specifically told us about preventions from these like prompt injection attacks. But yes, you're right. If you're adding kind of MCP tooling to your agent, let's say email that it reads, a new attack vector opens up where somebody can send you a prompt injection email. And I think that the next thing we'll cover has actually discusses this. One of the papers that we're going to discuss, the one that supposedly using ChatGPT reduces brain activity, they have encoded some gotchas in the paper that didn't show up in the paper, but only showed up if you ask an AI to summarize the paper. They actually like did this kind of like very interesting thing. So we're gonna talk about this. All right. So this is ChatGPT. The other thing in ChatGPT, I will show you right now. This is super cool. I mentioned this I think before, but now I actually have this. You guys see this little thingy that pops up? This is a recorder, and now we're at 59 minutes and 39 seconds. We are now transcribing this meeting.
This is embedded into the UI of ChatGPT?
Yes, this is now in the desktop app.
This is useful.
Yeah. So what this is, for folks who are only listening and not seeing, we're exactly at 1 hour, by the way. You're on thursdai. We are transcribing this meeting, including the system audio that comes from my friends and co-hosts, including my audio from my microphone, including anything that happens, directly into ChatGPT. So they have released within the ChatGPT app a recorder transcriber that after you hit start, it will transcribe everything that everybody says. And then it doesn't connect to Zoom directly like other tools like Fireflies, for example. But definitely works forget this app that everybody loves that also transcribe this from a personal perspective.
There are plenty of them, but what I want to ask is, I'm using a lot, many times, ChatGPT's transcription just for the transcription because it's so good.
Yeah.
But it is limited to, you can't transcribe forever. Are there any limitations that we know about on this? Because it's important.
That's what we're testing right now.
Okay.
Supposedly, they shouldn't limit you, because they don't know for how long meetings are going.
Even if they do limit you and they say, I don't know, in the terms, it's going to, for example, just transcribe 1 hour. It's fine. I just want to know what the limitations are. Yeah.
So I haven't seen the documentation for this. I will say, it will be very much a bummer if at the end of the 2 hours you'll say I can only transcribe for 1 hour. So we'll definitely test this. So folks, as you may need to start telling people, some of us are in California, for example. California is a one-party consent state in the US where you have to tell the other party you're recording, hey, I'm recording you. Two-party consent state. The other party has to consent or at least hear that you're recording so that they can drop and they don't want to be recorded. Denver, Colorado is one-party consent, so I can record you because I consented to the recording, so I don't have to get your permission. I don't know the laws in Europe. I'm assuming the laws are way more strict in what you can do with recording, Wolfram. So
the question is if you're recording someone from Europe, you know, which
jurisdiction you're going to be in. Yeah. That's true. So I think it's a very interesting step from ChatGPT, right? Because well, many people dump recordings into ChatGPT anyway. I told you about the connection that I did via Zapier, where like I do record with a different software called Fireflies, and then I have a webhook that connects and just sends all those transcripts, specifically not full transcripts, into ChatGPT so that ChatGPT has more context about what I'm doing. I think this is a very natural next step for them. Many people will just do this. If it's built into the plan, then it kind of obsoletes multiple of these companies that this is kind of what they do, but not natively. So very interesting.
Look, I think that in general, OpenAI has a lot of features that are specific to use cases and in user flows, use case flows that are in ChatGPT, but they can be features on their own. Transcription is the easiest example for this.
Yep.
Transcription is really good. And multiple times I found myself open ChatGPT, transcribe, and that's copy the transcription to work on it somewhere else.
Yep.
And I think what is happening now is OpenAI slowly integrating deeper all the features of ChatGPT to multiple different platforms, simply because their capacity is huge at the moment. Everything they do is at huge scale. It's not that easy to just move or extend features. Even if you have them, you have the models, you have the endpoints, everything. It's not that easy to offer recordings and transcription to 400 million people every week. It's a lot. It's a very hard thing to do. It's a huge engineering effort. So this is what we see now, I think, with everything we already have. All of a sudden, we already have it also in the app, also in the web. I think that this is the move kind of OpenAI is taking at the moment, and actually they're all over the place. Just erase what I just said. They're all over the place. They're releasing codecs. They are doing this. They are releasing codec CLI, and now a new model, an O3 Pro. They're all over the place. They're good. They're good, pretty much.
They're doing good. I will say this one last thing, and we're at an hour, so we'll move to this week's buzz in a second before we have an interview soon. What was I about to say? I get disconnected. I will say, this feature specifically is focused on kind of enterprise folks. I think it started with enterprise and then rolled out to everybody else. For many people, the consideration of whether or not to use this AI versus that AI boils down to which additional services you have. If ChatGPT has your memories and now your meetings transcribed while also transcribing your meetings, that's just another mode for OpenAI for you to not kind of give up their service. And I think it's very interesting that OpenAI steps into this. And now I remember the actual thing I was wanting to say. Sam Altman went on multiple podcasts. One of them is with Jack Altman, his brother. And there was a clip that I saw super quick that he actually talked about OpenAI's ability to maybe do self-driving in the future. And you just now said that they have multiple abilities in different places. I was like, I raised my eyebrow because, that's not an area that the OpenAI has explored so far. Definitely, there's a rivalry between XAI and OpenAI, etc., with Elon co-founding, etc., blah, 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 and there's the lawsuit. But very interesting that Sam Altman just like threw it out there, like, at some point we may have an ability to do like self-driving that's not like robotic. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. There's a lot of talent in OpenAI. We'll talk about that talent. Some of it is leaving after this week's buzz, but definitely stay tuned because we have an update, the Zuck update, in a second. But for now, we're an hour and 8 something into the show, and I want to talk about some weights and biases stuff. This could be very interesting. Weights and biases in CoreWeave. Folks, usually this corner is called This Week's Buzz. I let my co-host get a little break. However, if you want to stay and kind of talk to us about this, it could be interesting because the updates here are new and exciting since CoreWeave has acquired Weights and Biases a few months back and became public. We cannot officially comment on any CoreWeave public stuff. By the way, this is like all opinions. However, some launches has happened. And so yesterday in Fully Connected, we launched a few things, including some related to CoreWeave GPUs. So let's talk about this week's buzz right now. Alrighty, folks. My name is Alex Volkov, and as the title says, I'm an AI evangelist with weights and biases. This week's buzz is a specific corner where I cover everything that happens in weights and biases, whether or not it's new events that we're going to or different topics that we cover. This week, I have a lot to tell you because this week, just yesterday, our premier conference called Fully Connected that hosted, I believe, 1,700 people. I think we overshot the registration numbers significantly, was a huge success. And it included a few updates, a few announcements that we did because since the point where we got integrated into CoreWeave, we started working and decided, okay, what can we do within kind of the next, I think, a few months since the acquisition until the Fully Connected conference. And we actually announced like 3 things. I want to talk to you about 2 of them. And so I think it's very important to maybe highlight for folks who are listening that CoreWeave is one of the top, what they call neo clouds, like the newer GPU clouds, the only one who got the platinum tier and the semi-analysis GPU cloud ranking thing from Dylan Patel. And CoreWeave has incredible customers, like I believe they announced like all public, by the way, nothing that I have knowledge from the company. They have announced a deal with OpenAI for ungodly amount of $1 billion. They also, Microsoft and multiple other folks are customers of theirs. So CoreWeave has been, by the way, I remember CoreWeave, Wolfram, maybe you remember from a long time ago when they supported the release for Stability AI as well. So since then they did like a lot of work, incredible growth, and they obviously have a lot of GPUs, and we at Weights and Biases were GPU less, let's say, and now we're kind of bringing those 2 things together. And so here's basically the number 1 thing that I want to talk to you about. From now on, if you go to your Weights and Biases kind of sidebar, and you can see my sidebar here on the screen, there's now a new tab here called Inference. Inference within Weights and Biases, that's new for many, many folks. And we now have multiple open source models that I'm going to show you that you can run inference on, and including pricing. So we now support via Weights and Biases, via CoreWeave, so backed by CoreWeave GPUs. We have Llama 3.1 and 3.3. We have even Llama 4 Scout with Vision. We support DeepSeek V3 and DeepSeek R1 and 5.4 Mini. We're launching an inference service in preview, and pricing is very competitive, and we highlight kind of the token structure as well. This is hosted on CoreWeave CPUs directly from Weights and Biases. We also give credits to folks. So whatever tier you're on, including the free tier, you now have free kind of inference to some extent on these models. We would love to invite you to try them out. You can either try it in our playground, which I'll show you in a second, or via an OpenAI compatible API. So all you need to do is kind of specify your authentication API key and a different base URL, and then you can just drop in, replace this, and give it a try. If you want to just play around with this, we have our playground that I showed you before. Our playground is basically a very simple way to compare between models. So you can grab this DeepSeek and then add, let's say, the other DeepSeek V3 and ask our Ice Cube question, our loved Ice Cube question. You can see like the comparison between the 2 models. Obviously, all of this happens within Weave, the Weights and Biases tracing and observability platform. So everything that happens here, you can actually go and see kind of the traces for and compare them. I think both these models now get the question correct. As we see tokens printing like super fast. I think at some point we'll also show you I'm having a little bug here. We'll also show you the tokens per second. So this is number one, the inference service. It's in beta. Folks would love some feedback. That's why we gave a bunch of folks like free compute. Would love some feedback to see what's going on here. The next thing that I want to
Can we recommend models or request models?
I have many questions. I know it's what's in biases, but I have many questions. It's interesting.
All right, folks, let's go. Questions as much as I can. I'll answer.
Wolfram, go first.
Yeah, so I saw the models, and for example, Gemma would be interesting in that case. So is there a way to request models? And if enough customers or users request it, it gets added, or what's the process, the plan?
That's a great question. I'm unaware of the process. I also asked like how we chose this. I believe they looked at some usage metrics. I recommended OpenRouter, for example, also as a usage metric that kind of like a good guesstimate of where we can get models. But I'm definitely gonna be a conduit here to the team that works on this. This is the WIF team. If any interesting models that come our way, for example, the M1 could be interesting. I did check for us because I knew you guys are going to ask this. Yeah, before you ask, maybe I'll say I did go and ask whether or not the R1 is full weights or quantized. And we're serving. Yes, I knew that this question is going to come up, and I have a confirmation from the team that we're serving the full R1 and the full V3 unquantized versions. We're serving them with very good throughput as well.
So basically, what we can do with this, if I understand everything correctly, the entire platform, we can. For example, train our models and then compare them to the models that you provide here, like head to head, like comparison. Yes. I mean, we can use these for evaluation of direct evaluation against models. That's very useful. Yep. Really, really useful. Seriously.
And obviously we show you like the whole kind of like weave tracing and how many tokens this cost and cost tracking as well. So this is like within the weights and biases model, and so you don't have to like send your tokens elsewhere.
If you're using the API, can you then also see the traces, so you don't even have to set anything up? So you just use the inference point?
No, I don't believe that. Like you'll still have to like set up weave. We don't want to just like. It could be a good idea, but we don't want to just like take over and send your traces without you knowing about this, right? So you'll have to mention a project, because then we need to kind of attach, I believe, the billing to a project. So you do mention the project in the API. That's the only thing that was interesting to me. That's new. Kind of in OpenAI, you don't mention projects. You mention the base URL and the API key. We also ask you to mention the project. I think that's specifically for tracking because multiple people belong to multiple projects. But no, we don't auto trace for you. We consider this, and I think people want to know if they're sending their traces to some specific area.
I hope it's fully compatible, because if you have the project, which is not part of the usual OpenAI API, that could be an issue with some inference thing. So it would be cool if the API key itself could be tied to a project. Just what I'm thinking about right now.
I haven't seen any problems. You just add kind of keys to this, like at least in the Python, you add keys, nothing complains. But yeah, like this is a specific authentication thing.
Can we run custom benchmark code on that? Because like, for example, for the latest OpenAI Health Bench, we had to do some custom coding for the LLM as a judge benchmark, and it needs its own, like, because a particular judge has to look at the rubric, and can we run like custom benchmark code, and can that go out to another API, or like what are the limitations around that for the judge, for example?
So I'll get to the judge in a second. So I'll show you like what's going on with the like live monitor. But yeah, you can run anything you want. This is like OpenAI compatible API. You can, besides the kind of the limits, fully OpenAI compatible. Whatever code you throw at OpenAI, you can do. The second thing, and Nista, I do have a very interesting thing at the end that we just announced that we will launch at some point. It wasn't like launch. This you can go right now. Inference endpoints is already available for your weights and biases. I'm very excited about this, folks. We're doing inference right now. GPU rich, yeah, let's go. This is super cool. I'm very, very excited to bring you this, and you guys could definitely give it a try. The second thing that we've announced, which is super cool. Yeah, go ahead. You had a question before?
I just wanted to say that I'm not. I don't know the roadmap of weights and biases, but it clearly goes to, we provide the compute. You can just specify your model. We do all the evaluation for you, and it's really exciting and really useful. Like the way it looks from where I see it, it looks like it's going to a very useful place. And just what Nistan said is pretty much the next step. So I don't know if people inside Weights and Biases might want to know. So Alex, please do tell them. Providing full service for evaluation of models, like you provide the entire your eval, and you guys just run the eval for us with the compute and everything, is extremely useful. And I think many people would, including myself, would have loved to use such service. So really exciting, seriously.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
I see the integration now. At the beginning, I was just I was a little bit perplexed, like, what do they have to do with one another? Yes. CoreWeave and Weights and Biases, but I see how it integrates pretty naturally.
So
now,
here's how the marketing team treats this. We now offer metal to token observability. So we help you observe every step of the training process from the metal and the GPU is used. Weights and Biases is now integrated into the mission control, cluster health monitoring, like all of this that you can see with CoreWeave. This is like for the enterprises that use these huge scale for training, but also the platform now offers observability across all the layers of the stack, from like the metal and hardware, then the model training, and now obviously the use from tokens as well. That's super cool. This is why this is the vision. It's great that like folks are seeing this. The second thing that I really want to talk about like super quick is if you folks know that I'm very excited about evaluation specifically. Like we obviously do vibe evals here on thursdai for a long time, and we tell you about which models we think is best, etc. And I've been telling you about the specific business observability endpoint. This is like what Weights and Biases Weave does. When you're running an application on production, the MMLU and GPQA score of the new model doesn't mean squat to you. You need your own evals. We've been talking about this multiple times. Hamel Hussein and Shreya Shankar were on here. They just taught the most by the way, famous Maven course, and like the #1 Maven course on evaluation. Everywhere we go, AI engineer or fully connected or different AI conferences, evaluation is what kind of separates the men from the boys, if you will, in who puts up AI, great AI. We're going to talk about evaluation very, very soon after this as well. Evaluation, specific app evaluation, is what's missing for many companies to put their like app on production and have do changes to it reliably. And so, I'm very excited about evaluation. What I'm super excited about is so far, Weights and Biases, we could do offline evaluations for you, right? So we would show you, basically, if you run those evals on whatever model you want, if let's say the new Gemini Flash that came out that we just talked about, right? If you want to run evals, your own evals on it, you'll have your own code, you will run it offline, you will make a decision. When I teach evaluations in workshops, I teach about 3 types of evaluation. One of them is offline, that you have to run. The second one is guardrails, which we help you with, but we still don't run. At some point, maybe we'll get there as well. Guardrails are preventative evaluations. They basically they deny output or input. If your customers or your model sends something that you don't want, guardrails will quickly evaluate this and like basically deny output. But the third one is monitoring for continuous like drops in performance. This is what we call online evaluations. This is a company like us or somebody else runs the LLM as a judge that you want on some subset, or if you can afford it, 100% of your traces, but you probably shouldn't run this on 100%. But definitely some subset of calls on production. And basically, you need the monitor, you need a company that does this for you. I'm very, very excited. This came from my team at Weights and Biases, the Weave team, to announce that we now support online evals, online evaluations via monitor. So I want to show you super quickly how this looks. If you go to your Weave dashboard now, you can have, there's a new tab here called monitors, and I can show you super quick how to set up this monitor. You set up a monitor by saying, let's say truth, and then you turn it active. You decide which calls to monitor, so you already have to have a few calls there. Let me go to a different project super quick. I don't want to go to quick start, 03, let me go here. So again, you go to monitors already, and then you choose which call to monitor for. I have multiple calls. Obviously, you want the one that that means the most to you. Let's say this one, Studio Predict, and then what you need is you define a scorer. In this case, we use LLM as a judge as a scorer. So basically what this means, very quickly and very simply, is that we will run your LLM as a judge for you. And because we've connected to whatever keys that you want, including the new inference that I just told you about, right? So you can run a whole loop within weights and biases now. You can have our inference service run the LLM as a judge for you, so your billing is going to be like unified, or you can provide your OpenAI, Anthropic, or other provider keys like Azure, Bedrock, or XAI, and we will basically do the LLM as a judge call for you. So let's select, in this case, let's say WB inference. Let's have a phi mini judge, for example. You give this judge a system prompt. You're a judge. You're an impartial judge. Your task is to validate truthful. And then you have a scoring prompt. That's, I think, the most important thing. This is basically what LLM as a judge is. It's a prompt that you provide inputs and outputs. And you say, hey, based on this criteria, judge this thing, right? So I have this thing, called judge. So here's an example of such a prompt. If you're interested, please evaluate whether the output statement is accurate based on the input statement. The input statement is this with a variable, and the output statement is output. The response should be a JSON object with the following fields: is true and reasoning. We will show you this is true and reasoning within the actual column. So let me go actually and show you how this looks super quick. Yeah, I'll show you how this looks because I have this in the QA system. You have to have a running thing to actually see the outputs, but let me give me a second. I'll show you how this looks. The responses of, I'm really hoping the QA, every time I come to show you something with Weave, something happens. So live demos hopefully smile upon us. But every time the judge runs on any production kind of trace, you'll see within the table the responses. Not getting it, so I will fake this as always with a pre-recorded demo. So give me a second, please. And yeah. So here's how it looks. Give me a second. So here's how it looks. After you create a monitor, hopefully you guys can see this on the screen. You create a monitor super quick, you give it a name, you give it a operations, you choose which operation to run, and you choose the sampling rate. I don't recommend 100%. This was only for demo, so that it runs on every call that I make on production. When you create a judge, all you need is this like specific scoring prompt of how the judge judges. You can add a bunch of stuff in there, like exactly how to score your prompts. After you create this, you go to the actual table of calls from production, and you'll start seeing on the call itself the judgment, whether or not this passed or failed your judge, including the reasoning of why. This is incredible because setting up offline evals takes way longer than this. For many folks, they don't, I think they won't even like set up online evals or offline evals because of this. So I'm very excited about this feature. This is in preview. Definitely, folks who want to give this a try, please let me know how this works for you, the limitations. We want to make this as much as best as possible for you.
So this is really an evaluation that is happening on the live production calls that are happening on your system.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So you have an agent running or something, and you do offline evals, but you want to make sure that the degradation doesn't happen. So you run on a subset on production, like a LLM as a judge, to know what happens. Right, folks, this has been this week's buzz. This is an announcement. The thing that Yam just mentioned, by the way, they didn't launch. It was only announced on stage. Nistan, this is something that's going to be interesting to you. We will soon launch an evaluation service that you'd be able to send your API that supports the OpenAI API or your model that you've trained, and we will run a bunch of evals for you on this service. That's something that
this idea on X this week. Someone asked why there isn't a platform that is doing exactly this, and I commented, just make it. People would be happy to charge a little bit extra for the token. People would be happy to pay. So I'm glad that you guys are working on it.
Yeah. So this is launching very soon. It's very useful for us as well. Here, like, would be able to like run the light version, for example, so super quick because the API is compatible. So we'll definitely give you more updates about this. If that interests you, please reach out to me. All right, folks, this has been this week's buzz. Let's move on with the show. Alrighty, we are back and we now have a new guest on the show. I'm very excited to introduce Pankaj Gupta. from Yup.ai, a new guest to talk to us about also evaluations, by the way, and different things. Pankaj, this is your first time on the podcast. Welcome. We got connected last week, and you showed me some stuff that you were about to release. Then you released them. We tried to get you on Thursday, but I think you delayed the release a little bit because that's how companies go. So very happy that you're here with us. Please feel free to introduce yourself to folks, maybe some background of yours, and then we're going to talk about Yup.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex. Can you see and hear me fine?
Yeah, you're coming through loud and
clear. Yeah, my name is Pankaj. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a startup called Yup. Indeed, that's the name, YUPP.ai. We just got out of stealth and announced our product and funding last Friday. That's why we couldn't make it last Thursday. My background is in building both startups as well as being in big tech. I was very, very early employee at Twitter, where I built Twitter recommendations. My co-founder built Twitter search. This is like the prehistoric era of Twitter, 2009. So what you see is what we launched and scaled, and that's where we met first. Since then, I have been at Google, again, leading Google Pay, different apps, and Chrome autofill, and then at Coinbase, again, leading consumer. So my background is consumer. My co-founder's background is AI. And what Yup.ai is, it's a consumer AI product masquerading as an LLM evaluation product. And let me take that step by step. What I mean by that is, so first, it's a consumer product. That is our focus. That is in our DNA. If you go on Yup's homepage, you will see it says over 500 models, all the models that you may have seen, and some text and image models that you may not even have heard of. So you will see them. You can check them out. It is all in one place. It is all for free. And I'll come to the free part. It is all for free. When you start, you get 5,000 credits. Actually, we'll make a separate link for the listeners of this show so that you can get more if you're listening to this pod, and send it to you, Alex. Now, second thing which you will find is that the UI is very different. When you put a prompt, while it looks like a chatbot on the homepage, you can either pick up to 4 models of your choice. So you can pick even, the really powerful models like Claude Opus 4 or GPT 4.5 or O3 Pro. Even all these models are available to you for free. You can either pick them, or you can let Yup pick them. So Yup, we have built a router. This router model is kind of like a search engine. It will rank all the AIs that we have in order of kind of like the best for the prompt that you have put in. We will show you 2. So now you can see that there are 2 of them. They are 2 side by side on the desktop. On mobile, there's a different UI treatment, which is mobile friendly. And once you see 2, you will also see show more. It's kind of like the next page of search results. And so you can click and see more and more and more. So you can see all these AIs. So that's the UI kind of treatment. The third thing, which is what relates to evaluations, is this I prefer this button that you see there. Mm-hmm. Now, side by side, as we all know, has been around for the last 20, 30 years in AI, and before that, search ranking evaluation. What we have done is we have taken it to a consumer level. And so far, it has all been the domain of special raters or specially managed human evaluators. What we want to do is to take it to everyone in a very consumer product. So as you clicked, I prefer this just now, it actually asked you, why did you like this? Why did you not like this? The attempt here is, again, to make it feel fun. Now, when you do provide that feedback, 3 things happen. 1, it tailors the search engine, the router that I mentioned to you, to your preferences. Second, you get more credits. So just like you're showing, you got 55 more credits. And that is the engine that will make you that will allow you to use Yup for free, basically forever. Because while you use up credits for a prompt, you also get more credits. And the third thing is this allows Yup to collect human preference feedback for both RLHF and model evaluations. And the so why are we doing that? So let me go back to now evaluations. As we all know, there's static benchmarks, and then there is human eval. Static benchmarks, a lot has been said. Let me not repeat the same things. I'm sure the listeners know about all the pros and cons of static benchmarks. They're not representative. They're not what real world is, and they get saturated and overfit. So let me not say about that. Yep. But what I want to spend a little bit of time on is crowdsourced evaluations, on human evaluations. That, I think, less has been said about that. It is only now that the AI community is now coming to, hey, what are the pros? What are the cons? What are the pitfalls? What should it be like? Even though crowdsourced human evals have been around, again, for 20 years. As I mentioned to you, me, my co-founder, we were very early at Twitter when we were building Twitter search and Twitter recommendations. These were all ML-based products. Yep. We went to Mechanical Turk to get our ML models, evaluated at that time. We also went to some companies, I forget the name, Crowdflower was another company. There were some crowdsourcing companies even at that time. But the best way to get these models evaluated was to put in hands of millions of users, hundreds of millions of users. Yep. And they would check, we would do various A/B tests, both pre-launch as well as post-launch, and just check how users are using it in their daily lives. So for model evaluations, in the age of LLMs, this problem has gotten even more interesting and challenging. Yep. Why? Because LLMs are now much more general purpose than any ML was earlier. So if these models are general purpose, they're powerful, they're strong for a variety of use cases, you need a variety of use cases to test them.
Yep. And that's, I will say, just Pankaj, just let me interrupt just for 1 sec, but along the lines of what you're saying, this is basically also something that we offer here on Thursday every week. Like we have Wolfram, that's how we found Wolfram. Wolfram did these evaluations on Reddit. We read the Twitter feed of every model that comes out. We'll try to get the vibe. We're playing around with these models ourselves. And for many folks, when they tune into Thursday, that's kind of what they expect as well. And I think it's very important what you're saying, because we, for the longest time, we looked and said, hey, like the GPQA doesn't mean that this model is better than this one. Like this one writes better. This one feels better. There's like a lot of uncaptured kind of understanding of which model is which based on just basically using them.
100%. And that's what we wanted to do. I mean, playgrounds, dev playgrounds exist already in AWS, OpenAI, no matter which, but those are very developer-like. We wanted to take that to a consumer kind of presence. You mentioned vibes. In fact, that's the other thing we launched. It's still in beta. We launched a leaderboard and we launched a vibe score of each model. And that is what we think it is. Like, what is the vibe? So you can go there. You were presenting just now, Alex. If you go to the left, you will see below the chat a leaderboard icon.
Yes.
And this looks classic, like artificial analysis and any other kind of leaderboard. You can also go up and explore like the whole table of all the models. This is still in beta. It's still getting stabilized as we are getting. So that's why we have put a disclaimer to not make any production model decisions.
Yeah, I saw this disclaimer. I will say for folks who are just listening, what we're looking at is a very, very fleshed out, very nice UI comparison of basically all the models that you guys serve, and there's a lot of models. When I was playing with before Pankaj, while you were presenting the thing, I saw Magistral. Magistral is a model that we talked about like last week. Like Magistral already is included in your evaluations. You guys are doing like very, very fast by adding models as well.
Absolutely. If I can point you to top right, there is a button called filters.
Yep.
And there is the, let me explain this a little bit more. Now imagine, global users using this product for their natural use cases, because they are just coming here just to check out the AIs, just to use the AIs. And that will allow us to provide very, very fine-grained slicing and dicing of these rankings. Because let's face it, whether ChatGPT is above Gemini and whether it flips when they announce a new model is, only of that much value. What is of value to you, hopefully, and to the developers is these fine-grained things. For example, and we mentioned this in our launch blog post for this, we saw that young people seem to like DeepSeek a lot more than the general population. And where do we get this information? Well, because we made a consumer product. On a consumer product, we encourage people to make a profile. And, we kind of gamify it, we make it interesting. So the idea here is to provide, again, using the power of large scale, to be able to slice and dice into this. And if you don't want to do any of this, well, you can go and check it out for your own prompts and see what would you like, what models you like, what models you may not like. So this is still in beta because we just launched. We are just collecting our votes, and we will go from there. We are asking, I think and this is again something that we have published in our blog, blog.yup.ai, where we want to really go deep into these fundamental questions that, hey, if we are producing this ranking across models, is it fair? Is it transparent? Is it credibly neutral? One of the things we announced is in the kind of the spirit of fairness and transparency and equitable access is what we would like is for every graduate student in a dorm to be able to submit a model here. And we call that permissionless model submission. And that is just not possible anywhere. As a graduate student myself, I cannot do contracts with these, big companies, which will take me 3 months and millions of dollars to get any human eval. So I resort to static benchmarks, right? Yep. But we have announced that we would allow folks to submit a model and our router will manage how much exposure we give and give results back. So that is just that is still in the works, but that's just an example of where we are going from there.
So I want to recap for folks because what's happening here is very interesting, and the reason why Pankaj, I agree to have you on in a completely unsponsored way, by the way, is because I found this open area of evaluations very valuable. We looked at LM Arena. We always kind of update when a new model comes out. They say, hey, this is the model on evals, but also on human testing and pairwise comparison, for example. Folks look at LM Arena for a while, but then there was a few misunderstandings of why and how they're doing this. I found the fact that this is gamified in a consumer product very interesting because, as folks just saw, I was able to go provide the prompt, have the top models for free. Many folks who don't pay for OpenAI's O3, for example, they aren't able. I believe that you have O3 Pro as well. Is that correct?
Yes, we have O3 Pro. We have Cloud Opus 4.
Yeah.
GPT 4.5. Gemini.
And many folks don't a Cloud Opus 4, for example. They don't pay for the consumer version, and you can pay for the API keys. Many folks don't get access to these models if they decide, iOS or Android. If they go with ChatGPT, they go with ChatGPT. They pay the $20 a month. And some of them pay $200 a month.
We even have models which are on fast, specialized hardware like Sambanova, Cerebrus, Grok. You can just go test them as a consumer if you wanted to.
Yep, that's incredible. And but the thing is that I notice is that I can now use these models for free, but also I get kind of awarded by giving you the opinion of which one was better for me. I haven't seen this awards system anywhere else before. I haven't seen this award system, basically for this, I get something while returning something back. Obviously, it should be clear for folks. They're using this model. They're using this service. They are also providing you with data. But the fact that you guys are open in the leaderboard, I think, is the most interesting part to me. For folks who are just listening to us, just the slicing and dicing of this leaderboard is incredible. You can do model families, so you can do all the GPT models, for example, or you can pair GPTs only to Anthropics, for example. The UI for the slicing and dicing is incredible, but also the type of models that you have here, many folks don't even know about. Tulu from LLM AI, we had LLM AI on the podcast. Tulu models are great for some specific things. So you can combine kind of the model types to the tasks as well. So with these conversations, you categorize them by facts and information, for example, and you see how many conversations. And you guys just launched, you already have 400,000 conversations for fact and information. This is crazy, right? And I think this is going to be very important because the categories are, like you said, what people want to compare based on. Like we just said, for example, in the beginning, before you joined the show, there's a new model, and that model is specifically for coding. And that model is not great for writing, for example. We had to have somebody from the, from the community chime in for us with this. But it's great to have like a backing to say, okay, this model is specializing for this. The thing that I want to also show to highlight, Pankaj, this is something I got very, very excited about. When you hit some models, I want to find this. It says it's better at something, and then it says because. So you see like examples of, let's say, Claude Opus 4, for example, and you go, there's like a card for Claude Opus 4, and user preferences, it says, in 1.3 thousand comparisons with this model was preferred, people say it's, and then you have like these tags, like it's on target and fast and style, like they prefer the style of it. So you basically kind of like suggest to folks how to give you feedback about the model based on text, but also based on kind of like it's better because it's writing better or because it's faster. And when you, as myself, somebody who judges models and looks at this, when I read this, it's very clear to understand why people chose this versus that. I really, really think that this the Eval UI here is the highlight of what I wanted to bring to the show, and for folks to go and actually try this. Because again, like we saw Opus, for example, it's ranking 51 on speed on your platform. And this is all based on users, right? You don't have any kind of like held back evals or anything like this.
Nothing. All based on users all over the world. We are just getting started, of course. We launched less than 6 days ago, so the leaderboard is still stabilizing. We are excited to present this and get this out of beta when we are ready. So look out for that launch announcement. Meanwhile, our consumer product is off to, let's just say, a strong start.
A very strong start. So, Pankaj, thank you so much for coming up. We will definitely, like you said, yeah, go ahead, Wolfram.
I have a question on an idea, because it has two values I see here. So for one, there's a new leaderboard in town where we can see pretty global view on the models. We can filter a lot, so that is an interesting information. But if we are using this platform and are rating all the models, what would be also interesting is my personal leaderboard, because it's nice to see what the majority is voting for, but maybe I have specific tastes. And since you collect this information, if there was a personal leaderboard that shows me where I rated the models and how they fare, that would also be a very interesting thing to me as a user.
Thank you, Wolfram. Perfect. We are just experimenting with that. If you go in the product and you click on your profile, you will see that you often prefer this model, and it will automatically look, but it's not really a personal leaderboard the way that you are saying. So we will definitely look into that. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I will say this last thing. Let me put you back here, Pankaj, before you leave. There is also an aspect of like a financial thing here for folks who will use this model. They will also like be able to cash out. This is not like just credits within your system to use on other credits as well. There's a whole secondary aspect of this that folks can actually like make money, refer friends, make money by providing you with feedback. I find it very incredible to like, this is an attempt. I'm really hoping that like, some folks, as always, will try to figure out a way to game those systems. As always with financial gain, there's like those folks. So really hoping that you have your eye on this and to make sure that like we get the signal, but not necessarily the kind of the hype that goes with everything that's cash based. But definitely, as you said, folks, listeners of Thursdai will give you a promo code to join Yup.ai and kind of like start using models for free. But also give a little bit back to the community so that like evals will stabilize. And then we'll also report on when the new model stabilizes. We'll definitely talk about this on the show as well.
100%. Thank you. Just one last thing is about privacy. This is about your data. And this, we make it clear as you go through onboarding, all your prompts are private. There is actually a toggle there. You can choose to make it public. And how can we do that? Because for leaderboards and rankings, you don't need the prompts to be public. You just need, analytics style. And so, and that is just one more thing in our pursuit of making a great consumer product, because we believe that it all starts from there. Natural use cases, multiple languages, all over the world, different age groups, all of that comes from our experience being at Twitter and other consumer players.
I will also say experience and also the backend that you guys have is very, very impressive. Like multiple folks backed you. Like we get connected from Josh Woodward, who runs AI at Google now, like the Gemini product. I believe that some very prominent folks are backing this with some maybe suggestions and kind of like ideation. So like very solid start. New leaderboard in town. We're very happy to have you on, Pankaj from Yup.ai. Folks, please go and try this product. We'll send you the code in the newsletter as well. And Pankaj, we expect you here back to talk about when new models like change the game and when there's like a disagreement between the multiple platforms. We would love to dive in and understand why this model takes over the other model, for example. Right now, it's not stabilized, but Claude Opus 4 is the overall leader, for example. But we'll see how that changes. Pankaj, thank you so much for coming up. We'll continue with our show, but definitely folks should try Yup.ai.
Thank you, Alex, Wolfram, and everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, folks, you heard it here first. A new leaderboard in town, and we had the CEO and the co-founder of it on the show. We will be giving you updates. We, as always, want more sources for evals from ourselves as well. Like we look at Reddit, we look at Twitter, we look at LM Arena, we look at the different scale AI stuff, held back evals, etc. But there's no comparison, like Pankaj said, for human rated data, and so we'll definitely be very excited to see how this goes. As you saw, the platform launched last week. They already have 500,000 conversations in some conversation style. So very, very cool, and we'll bring you. We're moving on because we have like around 10 minutes. We did not get to much of the stuff that we're gonna get to, but let's try. This week was a very hot week for video models as well. I want to show you this new A16Z map that they've launched for text to video and image to video models. There's model companies, there's model apps, like we mentioned previously, and there's now talking avatars kind of like area and lip sync area. We've mentioned all these like three categories to you, and now it does seem like this is kind of the shape of this universe. We'll just call out like the model companies like Veo from Google, Kling AI, and Hylio AI. Those are like maybe the top running video models. ByteDance just stepped in here. This map didn't update, but like ByteDance is definitely there with like Seedream, the new one that we're going to talk to you about. In the token avatars, we have Hydra and Heygen and Captions. This recently launched. We talked about Captions. Older players like Synesthesia, DID, and Dreamina also does this. And then in lip sync, there's like specific versions of apps that you provide a video that's existing and you provide a soundtrack, and it will just like match the lips, the SyncSo and Yapper and Vid.io. So we'll post this map of the universe kind of on the newsletter. But speaking of this map, it's already outdated. This is how fast this field moves. It just launched today, and they don't include these two. So this week marked the very impressive jump over VO3. So we've been talking about VO3 since Google I/O. It's like the top video model. I think still is the top for multiple things, including audio. But for stuff that not includes audio, for just like visual, text to image or text to video or image to video. This week we saw two models jump over VO3. Let's talk about two of them: ByteDance and Hylio 02. Let's talk about ByteDance first. ByteDance, obviously the company behind TikTok, with a lot of data on videos to train on, just an incredible amount of video, launches Seedance 10 Mini. Seedance is their video model, and it jumps to #1 on artificial analysis comparison. So artificial analysis does private benchmark, but also some stuff like Yup just talked about, where people just select models. And if you go to artificial analysis, and we should have artificial analysis on as well. Great guys. You can see the text to video generation models, and you can go to the leaderboard and kind of see that Seedance is #1 right now on top of VO3, both in text to video and image to video. This means they have an ELO score, so they basically kind of compare these models. A significant improvement on top of VO. It's very, very kind of unique to see. And you can try this model both on FAL and I think on Dreamina.capcut.com. This is kind of where ByteDance is allowing you access to their models. So you can go to video generator and generate these models with the new Seedance Mini. This is me just animated talking. So folks who are just listening, here's just a image that I provided and asked, hey, generate this person talking. It's kind of like animated. It's very cool. Like you can see the creases in my code like moving correctly. Very realistic model, and this is now the top number one.
This is just the mini version, and on file it's called the light version. What is on the leaderboard is without an add-on. It's a pro version, I would say. And I did this leaderboard. If you go to the leaderboard, you can rate stuff yourself, and I did it, so it's blind. And I picked it very, very often because it is above all the others. Veo has the advantage of audio, but this one, the prompt coherence, it's amazing. So I was just going through about 60, 70 videos, and the most preferred for me, that's why I was asking about the leaderboard just before, personal leaderboard, that was definitely also the Dream C full version.
C-Dream, yeah.
C-Dream,
yes. So this is like number one, and then
C-Dance, C-Dance.
Yeah, and the other major entry into the world of video generations is the Minimax. Minimax has, I don't remember a company besides maybe Google that the same week came into our updates and dropped like a very top reasoning model, but also the top video model. So congrats, Helio, for Helio 02. It's a 1080p native. So this model generates 1080p. Even Veo doesn't generate 1080p. Veo generates 720, and then you can upscale when you download. It has what they claim state-of-the-art instruction following, and it is quite incredible in instruction following. I've tried it. So Minimax Helio 02, and you benchmark in efficiency. You can provide multiple things that you want in the scene. It will just like have all of them. I think I had Helio, maybe an example to show you guys. I think I had an example with, I just asked for a bear. I don't have an example here, but I'll find the example. I basically asked for myself and then like for the camera to pan, and there's a bear that dressed exactly like me. It just like talks as well, and it gave me that that video. Let me see if I download this or no. No, I haven't. No, I haven't. But this, like, really, from the experience that I saw from folks on the platforms, this one is probably the best instruction following model. And they have like noise training efficiency. They've talked about. They increase the training data set, and they support native 1080p at 6 seconds. So it's super cool. So shout out to folks. And I think the last entry, we're running through this because we don't have that much time. The last entry to the area of video models is Midjourney. Definitely, LDJ, you came in here and kind of mentioned this as well. Midjourney, famously for image to text to image and maybe image to image models with a very unique style. Many folks prefer Midjourney for a very unique style. They now launched a video model. It's I think less higher quality than some of the other ones, but the thing about Midjourney is that it preserves a lot of their own specific style of video. So many folks like generate images with Midjourney, and then kind of like now they can animate this. They can be extended to 20-second total. I believe it's 480p, so like not very high resolution. But many folks are Midjourney diehard fans, so they are very appreciative of the ability to generate model and then kind of animate some stuff.
I haven't seen it here in Europe. Is it on the normal Midjourney page? Or okay?
Yeah. I gotta say, I don't use or subscribe to Midjourney. I haven't seen the reason to with like the open source models, but many folks are diehard fans of Midjourney and they want to talk about this. Moving on with a few minutes left. Well, we're talking about this. Okay. With a few minutes left, I do want to talk about Qt.ai. Maybe, Nistan, you dropped this. We have now a new speech-to-text model for real-time speech. And I do want to show you this because I think it's super cool. So Qt.ai, the French company that we talked about with Moshi, the Omni model that kind of you can converse with. They recently launched unmute.sh where we can like have conversations with. They're now launching the speech-to-text version of their model, 2.6b. I don't know if they open sourced it or not. I haven't seen, but they mentioned the Yeah, if you want to call the model for Python for research, use a PyTorch implementation. Yeah, so the model is existing, I believe, on Hugging Face. I hope on Hugging Face. Let's see. Yeah, the links here are directly on Hugging Face. Yeah, so they're launching an open source 1 billion English and 2.6 billion, I believe also English and French, and 1 billion and English only model 2.6 billion that transcribes better than Whisper for those languages. And you can see on this chart on different LibreSpeech and Tedlium, different others, the world error rate is very, very low. But this model is optimized for speech, fast speech as well. So I'll show you an example right here. So this is me talking, and as I'm talking, the words appear immediately. This doesn't happen with Whisper. Whisper cannot do this. Whisper needs like 30 seconds of audio to go into the model to then transcribe. This model is optimized for speech to text. You can see that it's green while I'm talking. If I pause, it detected the end of speech based on the VAD, for example, thing. We've talked about the semantic VAD before on the show. We had semantic VAD, and Quindla talked to us about how voice-activated detection needs to actually know what you're talking about versus just like the rate of your voice, for example. And they have this built into the model in a very fast way, so the model actually knows when you stop talking. Right, so we've transcribed all of this, and you can see it's very, like, for folks who are watching, it's quite good. It's quite good. You see it's green while I'm talking. There's a few mistakes here and there, but generally it's quite good. And this is
a marvel.
Yeah, a marvel. This marvel is optimized for speech to text. And I said model, I'm assuming. But besides this, they call themselves Marvel. It's a very good model. Very good model, sir. So we now have a new speech to text from them. All right. Last three things that I kind of mentioned in the beginning that I hope that we're going to have time to talk about, but with the interview and some stuff we didn't really get to it, I just want to highlight those super quick before we drop. 1, LLM flunk real-world coding contests, exposing a major skill gap. There's a paper on Archive that from Live Code Bench that they've created a new category of testing. Wolfram, we should talk about this. Let's have 5 more minutes for the show. It's fine. Folks.
We could make a whole episode about just these parts.
We can make a whole episode of these 3 next things. One of them is Live Code Bench, which is a coding benchmark that we report and multiple companies report. I don't know, Nissan, Yam, if you guys have seen this. They have created a new category of hard, and all of the models that we have.
Quite a little bit of scores on this category.
Yeah. Yes. All of the models, O4 mini high, which is the best reasoning I think that we have right now. Gemini 2.5 Pro, O3 mini, DeepSeek R1, all of them get 0. They, just for comparison, O4 mini high on the medium version of this model, of this benchmark, has 53% success. On the easy one has 83% success.
Can we see some questions? Like, what are the questions that none of them could get? Because that looks a little bit,
it looks crazy.
Yeah, everything 0 is, it's hard to sell. I mean,
I would love to see the human scores in comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to like distill right now to the hard subset, but the data set of Live Code Bench Pro is on Hugging Face. I think this is it, the Pro one. It's on Hugging Face, so you can go and test it out as well. It's very, very, very interesting that like this is what we're getting, because as always, these folks, they love new hills to climb. And so for folks at the big labs, when they see something that the model cannot do, even with any percentage, I don't remember this being the case. Even when HLE, like Humanities Last Exam, launched, or Frontier Math, another very like hard benchmark, we didn't see 0 scores. Even for the top models, we see them maybe like 5%. This is in the 0 category. Like none of the models can complete. Recent reports claim the large language models now outperform elite humans in competitive programming, drawing on the knowledge from a group of medalists in international algorithmic contests. We revisit this claim, examining how LLMs differ from human experts and where limitations still remain. We introduced Live Code Bench Pro, a benchmark composed of problems for Codeforce's ICPAC and IOI, International Olympiad of Coding. They're continuously updated to reduce the likelihood of data contamination. A team of Olympiad medalists annotates every problem for algorithmic categories and conducts line-by-line analysis of failed model generation submissions. Using this new data, we find the frontier models still have significant limitations. Without external tools, the best model achieves 53% pass 1 on medium difficulty and 0% on hard problems. 0% of hard problems. By the way, folks, just an update. I think we found out the limit for ChatGPT recording. It's exactly 2 hours. Because we just passed 2 hours.
We got a test? We got a text?
Yeah, we'll see. It says it may take a couple of minutes, but it basically stopped itself after 2 hours. It didn't press anything. So we did complete the test.
If we got a text until the end, it's impressive. It's really, really big.
Yeah, there we go. We got, we got AI Advanced Evaluation Platforms overview.
Wait, it's not just the text.
I don't think we have the actual text, do we?
No, it's formatted.
Yeah.
Wait.
We have action items, we have overall summary, and we have key points.
Okay, it's different. Alex, it's different than the actual, if you press the transcription button on the left.
Yeah, it is.
It's different because the transcription button is not formatting it.
Just to make sure the folks are still following us. Folks who are just listening, ChatGPT transcription just jumped at us, and I'm pressing the time steps. I'm assuming the whole transcription is here, but maybe the desktop app didn't update. Let me go and actually check this on production. But we've got a summary of the whole show. ChatGPT. We got a summary of the whole Thursday show, including action. No, this is not. Come on. Give me just a sec, folks. I'm gonna play.
Good one from OpenAI. Seriously, good one.
Yeah,
that thing is useful.
Let's see here. Let's have it load. Yeah, there we go. We have a summary, overall summary of Thursday. We have the key points, which we talked about: Minimax, Yup, Google release, and then OpenAI. And then we're supposed to click the timestamps, and we actually see the whole transcript. Yes.
Whoa, wait! It's not just transcription; it's way more. Yeah. Alex, it's annotated. Who said what? Yeah. Come on! It's annotated by people. It's crazy. That's crazy useful.
That's awesome.
Whoa!
Because how does it know? It knows because we said who we are, right? I said I'm Alex Volkov, and it did W, and I go with V, so it doesn't see anything. It just
it knows because it's AI. It knows simply because it's AI, man. It's really smart.
Well,
seriously, it's really cool.
I didn't even say my name. I didn't even say my name is LDJ or Luigi. I think you called me LDJ.
I called you out, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so,
let's just summarize this. Man, that's crazy. Seriously, that's crazy. Yep. OpenAI just launched a transcription service that apparently also annotates who said what with timestamps, and also gives you the entire thing summarized and formatted. That's crazy. That's crazy useful, and it allows you to out of the box do it for 2 hours straight transcription.
Yeah. I will say
that's crazy.
It's not fully perfect because it identified Pankaj, and I think he didn't come to the show up until an hour ago. So I think this is Nistin. So there's it does diarization, which is detecting who spoke when. It does it well, but I think it misidentifies, and that's why they say it's a research preview here. The transcript. I can't expand it, which is kind of annoying as well.
Look. Nothing is perfect. Okay, we get it, but come on, that thing is useful.
Wait a second.
Look,
it says ask ChatGPT to edit. If you tell it now that Pankaj joined after an hour and Distant spoke before, will it fix it?
I wonder if it will edit the transcription or the formatted part. Because the formatted, I'm sure it's going to edit because it's the canvas thing. But let's see if it edits the transcription.
So I asked ChatGPT. Pankaj joined only 1 hour later, and Nissan joined before. We'll see if it changes the.
Look, it edits the canvas.
Edits the canvas,
which is fine. But yeah.
So what we got is a full transcription with diarization, with name also. So it got from the context the people who introduced themselves. That's crazy. Without connecting to the software or seeing or anything. And then we got an overall summary. And then we've got key points here. Weights and biases introduced in info service. Key points have a citing with the transcription timestamps that it got it from. And then also you have action items. So listeners and users, let's finish on this. Are encouraged to test the new open source models like Minimax M1, provide feedback. Users invited to try Yup.ai platform using promo codes. Developers and enterprises explore weights and biases inference and online evaluation. I love this. And then caution advised when integrating MCP tooling into ChatGPT. This is the action items for you guys. This is great. And we have open question. When will more open source models like Minimax will supported by Llama CPP? How will the AI community address the security and privacy concerns related to MCP integrations?
Look, being honest, I'm less interested in the canvas thing because you can do the reformatting yourself. You need a transcription and you can do many things with it yourself, but you just get a full transcription annotated by person free. I mean, there are no services that do this well today, even when everything, it's crazy. It is crazy, seriously. And, I really like the canvas just as a whole, because you can just go to ChatGPT and ask for a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to use the formatting of, let's say that you just want to, a summary of a single thing, a single topic or something. You want to know about a single topic that was talked on the show for, making a short video or something. You can do this with the canvas. So the canvas is nice, absolutely, it's cool. But the transcription where you can use the chat to create whatever canvas that you want out of, man, that thing, I'm completely one-shotted by this now. I haven't seen this coming at all.
That's super cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's also the fact that you can now talk to this with O3. And I don't know if O3 Pro works. It doesn't support Canvas, but like you can converse with everything that we talked about with the whole transcript for free. So I can ask it for like, hey, generate. Let's actually do this. Yeah.
I'm not surprised anymore about OpenAI being good at product. They are quite being good at product all from the beginning of time, pretty much.
Generate a timestamp YouTube description for the show when it goes on YouTube. Add chapters based on the main topics that we've had with the right timestamps and come up with a great title for the show. So I can actually
that's what I wanted to ask. Try title and tell it to be interesting, like YouTube wise, and see what happens.
I will say
creativity.
This is what I do anyway. We're now getting some support from Sean that says if you record this into a project, you can have the project with the specific system messages and more context and custom instructions. So you can like start doing like projects based on different things. Thursday Live, from 1 million token models to crowd rank LLMs. Catch Alex Volkov and Wolfram from jam-packed episode of ThursdaiI. Test ChatGPT brand new blah blah blah. It gave me chapters. It's pretty cool. All right,
I must say that this is. I'm sure. I was sure it would be able to do so. It's something that it's done. That it's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we should test every single, make it hard for ChatGPT and just test everything now, because it's just incredible on its own, seriously. Yeah. Even if nothing
it's
is perfect.
Still a preview.
Absolutely.
I still see
it's only on
issues.
The app, just to make sure it's only on the app, not on the web.
Yeah, only the app has access to your sound. So folks, this has been Thursday. I think with this last piece of excitement, we didn't get to the point where I tell you about Andrei Karpathy's incredible talk. So you definitely will add this to the show notes. You should go and listen. Software 3.0, it's changing. We'll have writing software with English. We'll have a coupon code for you for Yup.ai as well. Definitely a very, very cool feature from OpenAI. And the last paper that we didn't cover is this MIT study of ChatGPT use causes sharp cognitive decline. It tested 54 people. It's very interesting to discuss. So we'll hopefully get to some point of discussion about this. And I think that this is it for the show, folks. Thank you so much for joining. If you missed, as always, on Thursday, if you missed any part of the show, I'm working really hard every week to bring you the show notes in the newsletter form. So you can subscribe to thursdai.news and we'll get you those by the end of today. So you don't have to keep notes or anything. We got you. Also, an edited version of this comes out as a podcast also on Thursday and every major podcasting platform. So if you missed any part of the show, you'll be able to review and rewatch those chapters there. You can jump to the chapters that you want. We try to bring you guests like Pankaj from Yup. I feel like Yup is going to be a big deal for testing models. So definitely go and test that out. Thank you so much for my co-hosts, Wolfram Ravenwolf, LDJ, Jan Peleg, and Nisten, who joined and gave you guys some of their expertise. And thank you everybody who tunes in from week to week. I think it's incredible to do this with you guys and get live feedback while we kind of run the show and have all of you tag us in different updates and tell us, hey, you didn't cover this topic. It's very important. Feedback is very welcome. Please keep sending this. And if it helped you in any way, share it with your friends. That's the best way to support the show. With this, I think we're out. Next week, I will say I'm going to be on vacation. Wolfram is going to run the show. Other folks will join. So I'm looking forward to see to tune in as a listener potentially for next week. So stick around for that next week, and we'll see you here then. Bye-bye, everyone.